Thank you for joining us on our QTV Business and Economy program. The Business and Economy program is intended to promote the ideals of a corporate Gambia identity with the objective of forging partnerships through dialogue between the public and the private sector, along with civil society organizations and the international community. In today's episode, we shall be discussing the National Assembly and recent developments emanating from that legislative body. The 58-member chamber recently voted on a motion demanding the appearance of the president or vice president for the August body to debate on the State of the Nation address speech, which was delivered by the president. You would recall that this State of the Nation address was given on the 19th of September 2019. The voting on the motion to suspend the session was not unanimous, but notwithstanding its passing augurs very well with the democratic values of governance and accountability, a mechanism that has come under challenge within our society and economy. Seemingly, whilst this suspension of session is a laudable and landslide victory for governance, there are some challenges that have perplexed the executive. Such challenges relates, for example, to the issue or the saga relating to the issuances of diplomatic passports. You would equally have also heard of the challenge that we had in Malaysia in terms of a businessman proposing to bankroll that embassy. What does that say in terms of our foreign policy? And also, lastly but not the least, the findings of the Janneh Commission by way of the white paper and the report in itself had showed that some members of senior government have been implicated in that report, but notwithstanding, they still hold positions in government. These are the issues that we will discuss over the next 1 hour. To help me in these discussions, I have invited two distinguished gentlemen. We have in our midst Honorable Sidia Jatta, who is the NAM for West Woolly, and Honorable Dauda Kausu Jawara, who is the NAM for Upper Fuladi West. Gentlemen, a warm welcome to the Business and Economy program.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're honored to have the both of you here. We know you keep very busy schedules, but thank you for gracing us with your presence.
It's a pleasure.
Honorable Jatta, you are a senior to Honorable Jawara, and we had a discussion, and he told me that, you know, he is honored that he is sharing this platform with you, and equally I'm honored as well, because I think this is the first time that I'm meeting you officially. I've had the opportunity to meet Honorable Jawara, and we have shared this platform before. But before we start, I want to acknowledge the eulogy, the befitting eulogy that you gave to our late first president of this republic, Sir Dauda Kairaba Jawara. I thought that was very, befitting. So we just wanted to congratulate you. I mean, I listened to the entire delivery, and I think you yourself had expressed some surprise as to being given that privilege. So we thank you for that. But before we start this discussion, I want to understand, to help our viewers out there to understand the reasoning and the rationale behind the recent motion that was debated on and ultimately passed in terms of the National Assembly requesting for the presence of the president or his proxy, the vice president, for them to be present, or for him or his proxy to be present during the debate on the State of the Nation address. What gave rise to that?
Well, thank you very much. It is very simple. There is, on the one hand, the executive, and on the other hand, the legislature. They work hand in hand with each other. But then, when the president comes, first there is a constitutional provision which stipulates very clearly that the president shall at least once every year attend a session of the National Assembly and talk to them about his policies. Now this State of the Nation address is within that framework. So when he comes to the National Assembly and talks about his policies, it is the responsibility of National Assembly members to review what he has said, and of course, to make it better and to help him shape his policies. He should discuss. He should come and listen to what the National Assembly members have to say about what he has said, either in terms of helping to improve on policies, shaping here and there, or in terms of even giving him even more courage to continue on doing what he is doing. So it is important that either him or the person who speaks, only a person who is up to speak on his behalf in the National Assembly is the Vice President. Unfortunately, the Vice President wasn't here. So does it make sense for National Assembly members to go and blah blah about his State of National address without anybody? When nobody to receive what we have to say and to react to what we have to say. Does it make sense? Does that help to shape policy? It doesn't. So that's the essence. You see, people are just blowing things out of proportion. This is a normal thing. President and National Assembly should react, should always interact. The essence of it is to help shape policy, help him to understand better what he is about in the country. We are people's representatives and we are in daily contact with our people. We have an organic link with our people. We know there are problems. So when we talk to him about what is factual on the ground. So that is why it is very important we review what he has said about what is on the ground. That's the essence of it. So if there is nobody to react to what we have to say about what he has said, then it was better he didn't come to the National Assembly at all.
I like the point that you made in terms of the president legislatively being requested to come and talk to the representatives of the people at the National Assembly at least once a year. And you made the point that in those deliberations of the president, those would pretty much sum up to his policies and what he wants to do going forward.
In fact, his propos is precisely on his policies and the impact of his policies on the people. That's it says.
Yeah. Excellent. Let me come to you, Honorable Jawara. I made the point earlier that the motion that was voted upon to suspend the debate until at that material time that the president could come and represent himself or send his proxy, which by legislation we are being told that only the vice president can represent him during this particular debate. Yes, the voting was not unanimous, but at the end of the day, what is material is that the motion did pass and sitting was suspended on this particular debate. There are 11 people who, from my reading on social media and from the newspapers, have indicated that had voted against this thing of suspending the debate on the State of the Nation address. This lack of voting in support of sort of contravenes the very principles of democracy and does not support governance in a way. You know, do you reckon, do you have an understanding as to why, what were some of the issues that some of the members who have voted against this put forward as reasons as to why they were not in support of the motion? Because I think that really we're talking about democracy, we're talking about trying to move, from a dictatorial regime, as is alleged, to one that is democratic. Why would National Assembly members who are representatives of the people not support that agenda of governance and democracy?
Thank you, Ben. Like you said, for some reason, I feel like this question would be best suitable for Honorable Jata, but
he can always come in as well.
Yes. I think because of the limitation of the time, I'll give it my best shot. And I appreciate your concern, simply because, like you said, we are trying to nurture and promote democracy in our country. But then democracy, this is what the principles of democracy is all about. On one hand, it's not a concern to me, you know, because people are free to, you know, speak their minds or opinion on any issue on the table. You know, in a democratic dispensation, they're allowed to do that, you know, and definitely, you know, it will give you a picture on the mirror of how our society, you know, is how would I put it, you know, stands, you know. But it's also a concern, and a very big one for that matter, for me, given the perspective that if you look at the voting pattern, I would say, you know, almost all who voted against, you know, this particular motion of the National Assembly, you know, asserting their authority, are all youths. You know, people who are expected to be in touch with, you know, the realities on the ground. People who are expected, you know, and trusted by the youthful dividend or democratic dividend of our society to represent their best interests, you know, and that can only be done, where you have, you know, a co-equal, you know, power share in the country, where the National Assembly, you know, is equally powerful, just as, you know, how, you know, the executive is. And if there is a motion, you know, the National Assembly, you know, wants to exercise that authority, I think it's only incumbent on each and every one of us to be able to support that motion, so that, you know, like, you know, Honorable Jata will say, it's not a witch hunting. It's about, you know, holding every single public official accountable, you know, to the people who put us in office. You know, so that is a great concern for me. And if you look at, you know, the pattern of voting, although the motion passed, which, you know, will tell you a good reflection of, you know, how the National Assembly stands, but it will also show you the reflection of how some people perceive such issues. Yes.
Honorable Jata, you want to add anything on that issue?
Yes, I think what was in the mind of those who voted against the motion, one of them in fact quoted a particular section of the Constitution, section 74, which is simply that, stating simply that ministers, vice presidents are responsible to the national, accountable to the National Assembly and to the President. But you see, that is a wrong section in this particular context. We know that. We know that ministers could have come with the President or the Vice President. And it's up to the Vice President or the President to say, okay, I'm going to see, but my Minister of Education is here, he will add this to it. That would have been the best practice. But they are saying that even in the absence of the President and the Vice President, these people could simply come and answer issues. But they were not the one who made this speech. Of course, they could have come. We said that. In fact, we who voted for the motion, we said, yes, the minister could come. In fact, they should be there to strengthen to back the President or the Vice President. He's backup, technically. Because they are the people who are responsible for those particular portfolios. But he has also made a statement about those departments and ministries. So we raise issues with him, he responds, and if there are still gaps, he turns and says, my minister, can you do this? There is nothing wrong with that. That would have been the most beautiful thing in the world. That is what is, in fact, that's the universal standard. That's the best practice. So that's what those who voted against the motion didn't understand this. They thought it was just simply for ministers to come and answer whatever issues are raised about their portfolios and so on. That wasn't the question.
I want to play devil's advocate a little bit and get your perspective in terms of some of the views out there. Some people, and I'm referring to the general populace here, have made the point that they cannot recollect at any point in time. Perhaps if you want to go as far back as the Jawara days, you know, we may be making a mistake because, you know, I mean, people may not remember everything that obtained during that time. But going as recent as the Jammeh era, people are saying that such demands have never been made on President Jammeh, as it were. So they are saying that as being unfair, considering the fact that such demands are now being made on President Barrow. I know that this is why I'm saying let me be a devil's advocate, because I know that kind of contradicts the point that I made earlier in terms of the question that I asked in terms of promoting better democracy and good governance. But what would you have to say to people of that school of thought, that why is the National Assembly members making this demand on Barrow?
They have not given us credit for what we have done. Because
no, I mean, you have gotten a lot of credit.
But we will look at the two situations. The Jawara situation and our situation are totally historically and constitutionally different. Jawara time, MPs were ministers. There was no separation of powers. The judge and the executioner were the same. That was not a good practice. No, it wasn't. Constitutionally, it was not even a good practice. Even though that was in the 1970 Constitution, it was a bad constitution in that regard, because there was no separation of powers. In our situation, there is a neat separation of powers. You cannot be a minister if you are a people's representative. You are a people's trustee. A people's trustee, you remain. You cannot serve two masters at the same time.
True.
And the law provides for this governance to be thorough and efficient, there should be an interface between the executive and the legislature. In the persons of ministers holding portfolios and in the person of the president. That the law provides. Because the law wants that now that there is separation of powers, the powers must interact for better governance, for better understanding and fulfillment of purposes of development. So that's the situation in which we are. And then we are just going by what the law provides and what is in fact international best practice. Don't you follow what happens in South Africa? You see that? Yeah. It's the same thing in our constitution, no difference. Except that they are applying their law to the letter here. And then the other thing is, we must go away, because this is what is happening there. They have created a monarchical attitude for the presidency. The presidency is just there. It's like a monarch. Queen was never attending the sittings of our parliament here. Even though she was the head of the government. But the president is not a monarch. He is a trustee like we are trustees. So there is nothing that prevents him or her from coming to parliament to interface with people's representatives. And that is exactly what the law provides. And that's what we are defending. And that is why the fact that it has never been put into practice is not the issue. And so people should be asking, why was this happening before? That should have been their worry. And they should have clapped for us for having done what historically has never taken place in this country and should have been taking place. So that's the question.
I like the analogy that you gave in terms of the trusteeship, that the president is a national trustee and you, the National Assembly members, are constituency trustees. So naturally, both of you are trustees, and therefore the desire to work together to fulfill that trusteeship must be there. I mean, I've never thought about it in that perspective.
How can it be done without interaction?
I think, it would be fair to say that we will learn a lot today from the Honorable Sidia, because this is the one thing, like I told you earlier, that I'm looking forward to sharing this platform with Honorable Sidia. And this is not the only occasion, it's almost on a daily basis that I will be sharing time, and space now with him, and I'll be learning. And just to say, of that concern of why now and not before, we have to appreciate the fact that we are growing, from a very bad phase of our democracy to a maturity stage, and these things is a process, so we will actually see things coming that have never been done before, been done for the first time. And it's not a question of like, oh, why did you not do this 2 years ago, and started doing it now? It's because maybe 2 years ago, our National Assembly was not in the, in a mature stage to be able to formulate this kind of thoughts, and have that interaction to form a sort of like a trust within ourselves,
or they did not simply live up to the responsibilities that they were
and
entrusted
also
with.
that you can also say one thing, the one beauty about this is this vote is not partisan. Is bipartisan. You can see that across parties in the National Assembly, we are all seeing things in the same light. So it means we are putting the country first. So I think it's a process, and people should expect us to learn from the job and eventually correct the wrongs that have been taking place, and we will get somewhere, inshallah.
And you see, last year when he came, the Vice President was there. Fatmata was there. She was the Vice President when we were debating the State of the Nation address. She was there. And she was the one who was speaking about or answering or reacting to issues raised by members on the State of the Nation's address. So we didn't raise it last year because the President did not realize there was somebody. The law provided that the Vice President, she was there.
And
this year there was neither.
And the precedent has been set.
The funny thing this year was there was neither, not only the Vice President, but there was not even a single sole minister there in the whole assembly. Not even a single minister was there. It was when we broke off, two came.
Let me come to you, Honorable Jawara, and this whole issue that we're discussing in terms of the suspension of the debate as a result of non-presence of the president or his proxy, the vice president, all boils down to administrative governance. I just want to get your point in terms of this very issue of governance that we are discussing, and which should really help to get us to those democratic principles and practices that we endeavor to realize or achieve down the line. The timeliness of the holding of the State of the Nation address. Some have argued that coming in September to deliver a State of the Nation address should not be the case. Actually, holding of a State of the Nation address should happen within the first periods of the year, and in that way people or the National Assembly would be able to discuss the issue. And also there's a timeline in terms of that policy delivery, because we know that in our country it's January to December as long as the legislative year is concerned. Is this something that is of concern to the National Assembly? And are you in agreement with the people that perhaps the State of the Nation address should come a whole lot much earlier in the year than happening in Q3 of the year, the third quarter?
Absolutely. Although the Constitution is not is silent on what time of the year should the President come before Parliament for the State of the Nation address. But best practice has it that you have to like Honorable Sida did mention in his first response to your question, that the idea of or the essence of having this State of the Nation address is for the President to come and put on the table his policies and programs that he wants to roll out in the coming year. And so this would give the National Assembly as an oversight body the opportunity to partake in how those programs and policies are rolled out, so that we can have an effective oversight on the project implementations and see that there is value for money. But if this is done in the last quarter of the year and then call them achievements, one could cast this question. What do you mean achievements? Maybe an achievement to you of building a structure which could have cost $10 million, but now it's costing the taxpayer $35 million. Might be an achievement to you, but because of the lack of effective oversight, is not an achievement to the Gambian people. So in essence, the timing is key on when you do this. So until now, we have seen even the Yaya days, this will be done in the first quarter of the year, so that the legislative body will have that opportunity to conduct oversight on the planned projects that have been approved in the budget. Also, there is another fundamental flaw that I want to highlight here. Whatever the reason is best known to the president, but I can say this comfortably that if you don't respect the rule of law and do things at your own will, it could lead to much more of lack of trust. Okay, the timing of the delivery of the State of the Nation is important, just as it is important because it's a constitutional provision. Just as it's important that you should also tour the country, at least that means minimum once a year. So best practice would have it that before the start of the rainy seasons, the president should tour the country, meet the farmers, and the wider populace to discuss what been projected or planned in the beginning of the year and see how far their implementations are. If there are any shortcomings, it will give them the opportunity to actually take down those, come back and then rectify those problems or address those problems. But also he could visit the second time maybe just immediately after the farming season to go and see the impact of the implementation of those programs and projects, to see to it that the Gambian people are getting what they deserve, and this will allow it would allow a good governance, but as well as a happy population, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. This is a very, very interesting issue, and we at the level of the National Assembly have been thinking about it too. In fact, some have been criticizing the issue from that angle. But there are many ways to do it. To do it at the beginning of the year is also not rewarding, because this is like some sort of self-evaluation. When the president comes to talk about his policies, in a sense he is evaluating himself or herself. And he's also giving opportunity to National Assembly members to evaluate what he has been doing. So to do that effectively and rewardingly, there are two ways to do it. You can do it half yearly. Middle of the year, the president now has covered a lot of space, So there is something to be evaluated. So he can come to the National Assembly and talk about so far what has been done and what is there to be done. At the end of the year, he crowns it with an order speech. Now this is stock taking. The year is complete, now he's stock taking. He is stock taking himself, we are also going to take stock of what he has been doing. This is the essence of the whole thing. Or you can do it quarterly. If you want to be even more effective, you're more energetic, more robust in what you are doing, you can do it quarterly, then you do it 3 times. First 4 months you come, first three months you come, evaluate what you have done so far, so that there is no mistake, there is no serious errors. Then after that you come again, and up the end of the year. This is all meant to make things to be done effectively and efficiently. That's the essence of it. It's not a fanfare. People think that this is a fanfare. It's not. It is about what we are doing. How effective are we doing what we are doing? That is it. How are people assuming the responsibilities we have entrusted to them? This is the essence of it, nothing more, nothing less. So people should not just talk, blow things out. There is nothing, who is interested in following anybody? Anyway, if we entrust you with responsibility, I'm interested to make sure that you are carrying out the responsibility properly so that we don't go into the ditch unknowingly. That's the essence of it. So you can do it either. To wait until the end of the year to do it is not very, very, very good. It's not good at all. Because you have nothing more to... This is what?
September.
September. When was the speech delivered?
September 19th. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so how many months more do we have to go?
3 months to go to the end of the year. Yeah.
It would have been better if you had come at the middle of the year.
Yeah. I know the view out there is that the Constitution is silent in terms of the period within the timeline within which the president should come and discuss.
Where the Constitution is silent, best practice dictates.
Well, that answers the question, because I was going to ask if given what is happening at the level of the CRC and the fact that the Constitution is going to be reviewed, is this one of the issues that the Constitution should take on board? Since the point that you are making, where the Constitution is silent, best practice must obtain. But the assessment as to what is best practice could be subjective. So should perhaps the Constitution take cue from this and perhaps put pen to paper within the Constitution during its review and say it should be during this period or within this time frame?
Let's hope that the new Constitution is going to take that into consideration. If not, well, the National Assembly has all the
prerogative
to make new propositions.
Okay. I want to come to another point regarding the State of the Nation address. And here I'll come to you, Honorable Jatta, in terms of the format of delivery. I know that as a former cabinet minister, the time at which the president is going to be getting ready to go to the National Assembly to deliver the State of the Nation address, every sector, every ministry is tasked with trying to provide an overview in terms of the portfolio for which you have responsibility. And then these are collated together, and this is given to the president, subject to review, of course, by the Secretary General. And this is what is tabled at the level of the National Assembly. But I also want to take cue from the point that you made, that this should be about the president's policies. That being the case, is the format that we've adopted and which we have been using, is it the most appropriate format, or should it change? Because for the most part, what you would see in the president's statement vis-a-vis the sectoral issues, yes, some of them would talk about policy, but most of them are just reporting in terms of what has been done and not policy specific in terms of what the plans and the aspirations are going forward. So is the format appropriate, or should we also consider, especially at the level of the executive, to revise the appropriateness of the State of the Nation address in itself?
Well, if we agree with what I have said, this is like a stock taking of what one is doing. If it is an evaluation of oneself, what one has been assigned to do, to know whether you are doing it properly or not properly, whether it is having impact or not impact, the format is not a good one. Okay. Because it's very sketchy. Look at, if you take any sector, like if you take agriculture, there isn't much. And there is so much. So much has been happening in the agricultural sector. What impact have they given? There is a lot of private, you mentioned private sector effort in agriculture is becoming, for me, I am amazed and impressed by what some private sector people are doing in agriculture. They are now engaging into value addition. I saw somebody who transforms cassava into flour, cassava into animal feed, cassava into fertilizer. But there is nothing about such things. There is nothing like that. And when you talk about developing agriculture, how are you going to develop agriculture? And there is nothing that shows me that agriculture has been developed, or there is any effort being made to develop agriculture, because you are eradicating poverty. You talk about eradicating poverty, and you are not telling me that agriculture is death. There is nothing in this country that will eradicate other than agriculture. Unless we address the agricultural problem in this country, poverty will ever be here forever. So if you read the speech, you don't see things. There are sketchy passing remarks about this and that. No, that's what we are. That's not evaluating anything. You go to the educational sector. There are a lot of interesting things that are happening in the educational, but MP, me, I know some of them, but the rest of the members of the National Assembly don't know. By virtue of my personal interest in them, I get into them, I know them. But they don't know. Experiments have been going on in the domain of education. Nobody knows about them. For example, if you ask him what they are doing with the national language in the domain of education, he can't tell you anything because he has never been informed. So, if the speech is meant to examine the policies and their impact on the populace, then the format is not helpful at all.
If I may add to what the Honorable Jada said, quite well, the speech is more about not what the speech has given us, but what the speech should have given us and failed to give us. And so there's a lot of questions to be asked about certain important national issues that were expected to be part of the speech, but failed to be there. But also some of the informations, you look at them, in as much as you just want to let it go, your conscience cannot allow you to actually accept that misinformation. You cannot copy and paste information from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and come and show it to the Gambian people and just expect them to buy it and just let go. So you'll see that there are so many information about the speech. Like for example, I'll give you that the finance and economic sector will tell you that the Gambia is doing absolutely very well in terms of economic growth, this, that, and the other. Very high economic indicators. That is telling you that we are on a very good plain sail progress. But is this what is on the ground? And if you go to look at, for example, our debt portfolio, what are the recommendations of the World Bank, or the IMF, against what is actually on the table? As far as I know, that the World Bank's recommendation is that we should not exceed our local debt beyond $500 million. But right now we are at $800 million. And now I think some 10 days ago there was another treasury bills of about the tune of $600 million. So before the end of the year, we will far exceed that threshold. So these are informations that we expect would be in the what they call in the speech. But also another point I might want to mention is that the president has indicated about the NDP. Everybody knows that the president takes ownership of the NDP and call it his baby. But the question is, what is spelled about the NDP or the status report of the NDP? All he has indicated is that the private sector is expected to play a significant role. But the private sector is only going to contribute 29% towards the NDP. The government will do 9%, of financing the NDP. But the huge bulk figure of 62%, which is over $1 billion, should come from the ODAs. That's the Overseas Development Assistances. But what is the status report on that? Is key to how we will achieve this vision of the NDP. So there's a lot that we need to know, or we need to be informed, that we are not informed about this speech.
Like you said, it's not reporting. Like you are reporting just that's what it is. It is a critical review of an activity or activities, critical review. And in that you have to say, what were the challenges? What are the challenges? How have you overcome those challenges? What are you to do to overcome the challenges? Why is it that this is that? What are you going to stop to do? How are you going to change that? It's much more than just telling me, I have done this, I will have this. No, it is not that. It is, in fact, for their own interest, the executive, their own interest. It is a critical examination of what they are doing.
I like the point, the example that you gave, Honorable Jawara, in terms of the debt burden and how the World Bank and the IMF combined have indicated that the debt portfolio should not go beyond
500 million.
I mean 500 million. But then if you look at what obtains now, the recent Treasury bill stock that we have added we are now, I mean, well above that limit. Because the
we are,
NDP...
we are past the limit already.
Yes.
By another 300
300 million, yes.
But then there's another 600 million expected to come on the stock.
Yes, because if you look at the NDP does say that the private sector should be the engine of growth. But then, if you continue to amass domestic debt, what does that do to the private sector?
Kills it.
Yeah, it kills it, because you are crowding out the private sector, because for you to borrow more, to be able to meet your foreign debt obligations, you have to increase interest rates. And when interest rates are increased, the private sector cannot go to the commercial banks to borrow. So on the one hand, you are saying that the private sector is the engine of growth, but on the other hand, you're equally crowding out that very same private sector that you had said should be the engine of growth. So I think, again, going back to your point, you know, if these are the issues that are tabled and discussed, then the National Assembly members will now take you to task and say, no, wait a minute, you know, I mean, this is what you said, but this is what is happening, and therefore, and these are the sort of discussions that the State of the Nation address, should be looking at.
Oh,
so interesting points that are revelations are coming out.
Of the NDP.
Of the NDP, exactly.
Where are we?
Yeah. And it's categorically spelled out in the implementation of the NDP that the National Assembly is, in fact, I think is highlighted as the fourth stakeholder in the implementation of the NDP. It means they're expecting us to do an effective oversight of all the projects and programs that are identified within the NDP between 2018 and 2021. But Honorable Jatta will not agree with me. NDP is something that is now hijacked and it becomes, to me, a personal issue than a national issue. And there are so many restrictions as to what take we have in the implementation of the NDP. I'm sure there are so many honorable members of the National Assembly who cannot tell you a status report of like what stage of the program are we in now. Most of the informations we receive are from the same domains. You receive your information from the social media and other platforms. But yeah, we are having contradicting informations. From, for example, the OP. One person saying that we have contracted already 75% of the pledges that are geared towards the financing the NDP on the ODAs, and another is saying that we're having difficulties now with contracting these fundings.
I recall reading that
let's
on the papers.
Let's say, for argument's sake, that I agree with the lady who said that 75% has already been committed or dissected. Now, where is the funds? Because this is not felt on the ground. As far as you go to Jahali Pachar, for example, he was talking about agriculture. I was there about a month ago. Between Jahali and Pachar, there's 1,480 hectares of rice fields. But you go there now, there's less than 30 hectares that has been utilized. The rest of the farm is just lying there. So where are the projects? Where is the funds to go and rehabilitate or revive that sector? And I ask the ladies in the local communities. They're telling me, look, the tidal irrigation system is wrecked. When we want water in the fields, we cannot get it, and when there's too much water to go out, we cannot get it out. So our fields in our yield per tonnage per hectare sometimes would not even exceed 1 ton. There's only one young man, and Honorable Jatta is who is in the private sector, who has over the last 22 years or last 25 years done a remarkable achievement that has never been recorded. The standard of yield per hectare in the Gambia has been, for the past 25 years, not more than 3 tons per hectare. This young man came and did a pilot, and he has registered 7.4 tons. He's the only active private sector player in the rice value chain who is doing remarkably well. And these kind of things should be highlighted, in the speech, and how you are going to promote this kind of people and make that sector so attractive so that some other young men like him and other investors to come into that area. But these are not there, so that's why sometimes I ask myself, what do you call an achievement? Could be subjective.
I want to move away from the issue and now discuss another pressing issue, and that is the issue of the diplomatic passport scandal. I don't want us to focus too much on what has obtained. What has happened, as they would say, is water under the bridge. But the issue is, going forward, how do we preempt such things happening? Because it doesn't augur well for the country. It actually sort of exacerbates the country risk, and the reputational risk of the country. Because as a country, what obtains vis-a-vis the foreign service, people who are non-Gambians holding passports, who have no link to the economic or developmental aspirations of this country, these are all negative vibes. But I want to get the perspective of the National Assembly, and here I would come to you, Honorable Jata. What is it you think we could do so that we don't have such challenges in the future? Because it is embarrassing, to say the least.
Well, I think the important question to be asked is who has authority to issue diplomatic passports? Who? I don't know. And all these big talk about it, I don't know anything, and I don't talk about it because I have nothing palpable. They say they are investigating, and I have seen nothing. So it is very difficult for me to talk anything about it. But the question I've been asking, who has authority to issue diplomatic passports? Well, if you ask me the other passport I know, Immigration Department issues the passports to people. You are laughing. But who so
it doesn't like when you say something serious.
So who issues diplomatic? Who has authority to issue diplomatic? Because I hear all sorts of stories. So that makes me wonder whether there is even a defined authority for issuance of diplomatic passports. That's my question. So let us first locate who is the authority issuing the diplomatic passport.
Well,
when we know that,
yes,
then we should objectively know what to say. But I don't know who is responsible for issuing. I have one. I have one,
yes,
which I deliberately don't use because I have something else which is dearer to me. That is the African continental passport. That is dearer to me. I'm a Pan-Africanist. So I put it, Gambian, I put it, I go along with it because there are some people, some countries are so crazy when they say, I want your national passport. I say, this is my AU passport is what is my national passport. So I impose it on them by force. I say I don't have any other thing, but I always go with it. Sometimes I even use my ordinary passport and not the diplomatic passport. Because I don't know what it means. Some people think once you have you are a diplomat. You are not. Diplomatic passport does not make you a diplomat. It just facilitates your travel. And sometimes it does not. Sometimes it does not. That's the reality.
Before I do a follow-up question, on the same question, what's your take?
We have an issue, which is of a very big threat to our national sovereignty, the way I see these diplomatic passport issues. Because people are looking at, most people are looking at at a context that I'm not looking at now. Maybe just me, I have this inquisitive mind. But we are seeing diplomatic passports issued to non-Gambians. And the numbers on them is like 16,169 number. So it means we have issued as much as 16,169 passports, diplomatic passports. Now, I saw last night somewhere in social media that the numbers of diplomatic passports that were issued since 2017 have been released, and the number is less than 2,000. But then we have one there that is of a Caucasian lady, somewhere from the Eastern Europe, whose passport number is 16,169. So D0016169. And I'm asking myself, who issued that one? If the government is saying they've only issued 1,700 something, but somebody is issuing our diplomatic passport outside or inside the country, at that tune, how safe is our contract with the contractor that we have, who has hands on this issuing these contracts? So I'm looking at from a national security sector perspective. How can we verify that this same contractor, who has a bank themselves a very bad reputation with some African countries, are not exploiting issuing our national diplomatic passports to other foreigners, to other citizens, who are now going around the world, conducting all kinds of businesses in the name of the Gambia. So I would expect the executive to do a thorough investigation, even in as much as inviting foreign experts, forensic experts, to make sure that we know where that particular passports are coming from, and where within or outside the country are they issued. And if you look at the diplomatic passport that are issued in the country, and that one, you will see that the issuing authority are different, the issuing signatures are different, and therefore maybe there's another person who is issuing authority. And Honorable Jatton asks a very good question: who has the authority to issue the diplomatic passports? As far as the immigration laws are concerned, it's only the director of the immigration who can issue the diplomatic passport. And maybe there is another law, but which I haven't seen, or policy, where they say the president has the prerogative to sole discretion to issue anybody diplomatic passport. But maybe that is like where the honorable member said no, where there's no law or the law is silent on the best practices are. But is this best practice in our case? Where every Tom, Dick and Harry can come and you just issue them diplomatic passports. And I did ask this question in Parliament, and it's still not answered, about some 2 years ago, since beginning of 2017. What considerations are there in place to issue somebody diplomatic passport? How many ambassadors at large do we have in the country? And what specific development has this individual ambassadors at large brought for country, not for personal gains, but for the country? Is questions that I have asked in Parliament, and still yet I have no response. So these are issues that we have to look at very carefully, and treat them carefully, give them all the treatment that it deserves, to make sure that our sovereign nation is not at stake for exploitation.
I know that you've raised two pertinent issues here. You have made the point that it would be good for a thorough assessment to be done in terms of the issuing authority, and whether the issuance of diplomatic passports are actually within the confines of the Gambian, executive machinery, as it were. You have also made the point that who has the authority to issue diplomatic passports, because it is clear in terms of who should issue the national passports, as it were, despite the point that he has made in terms of the Director of Immigration having responsibility. Has there been a request from the National Assembly to the Executive for this issue to be taken seriously, and for the investigation to be completed and shared with the National Assembly, so that we can finally put this issue to rest? Because as you rightly said, and as I said as well, this is a national security issue. But beyond that, it is also a country risk and a reputational issue as well. So what has been the request of the National Assembly to the Executive in terms of putting this thing to bed, to rest?
No, go on, sir. Go on.
Well, there are two ways. The National Assembly committee could, if they wish, invite the authorities concerned to the National Assembly for discussion on this issue, which I don't think it has been done. I think what we have been waiting is, since they said they are doing investigation, we are waiting for the result of the investigation. And once the investigation, we are told the investigation is complete, we expect that there will be a report to that effect. And that is probably the time the National Assembly is waiting to do something. But this is a possibility also. It would not be really nice for any committee to invite, given that we are told there is an investigation in process. So we don't want to interfere with that. But
To add to Honorable,
yes, I'll take the last point because
okay, sorry. No, the Minister of Foreign Affairs was in Parliament about some 2 weeks ago for questions and answers, and this point was raised, and he gave us some numbers of diplomatic passports that were issued in 2018 and 2019. No, 2017, 2018, but said we'll come back to us with the numbers on 2019. But we made it to him that we would actually be expecting to see the final number once they finish their formulation, but also the report of the investigations. As the honourable as Honourable Jatan already said, I'm a member of the Defence and Security Committee, Standing Committee of the National Assembly. We are meeting on this thing. We met and we discussed but we are going to meet again because some of our members, especially the chair, is out of the country. But we are going to meet on this issue and we'll send a formal request to make sure that all these things investigations are lodged before us.
Well, I have to draw the curtains here, and I would like to thank two honorable members of the National Assembly for making time to come and talk to us. We have had very insightful discussions, and I've been tasked by Honorable Sidia Jata and supported by Honorable Jawara that we should have a platform in which we discuss these issues, but in the local parlance, and that is something that I had promised to undertake. Honorable Jawara, it was a pleasure to have you on the program. Honorable Sidia, it was a pleasure to have you on the program. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Thank you.